Round 1 is in the books, and round number 2 is ready to get underway. Joining me for round number 2 is going to be fresh off of the HCT casting desk, Nathan, that's Admirable Zamora. Admirable, your second DreamHack event this year in North America. You joined us for Austin, but we're a bit busy for the last couple of them. How's it feel to be back?
It feels great. DreamHack is always one of my favorite events. It's always so personal, the way that the guys show so much camaraderie and how much they've all practiced together and worked towards this point. It's always a pleasure to see here these competitors still working hard, even though the points don't matter anymore this season.
Yep, that's absolutely right. And then we're going to have Lorinda, of course, back on the desk. Have you guys actually ever casted together before?
We've only ever met each other once before, and that was when I was Sottl's manager a very, very long time ago when Sottle was still playing. So yeah, we never cast at all. So.
I remember that one because I suplexed him through a table.
Oh yeah,
but
that happens
into
like
a pool.
That happens every time. So you start to get them all a bit jumbled in your head. But it's going to be awesome to see you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the desk for round number 2, and we have got a really good matchup for you. It's going to be the DreamHack Atlanta champion, DrJikininki, up against Innovation, which is a name that you're going to start hearing more and more, seeing it in a lot of Open Cups and on ladder recently, but hasn't had his breakout performance. Maybe this could be it.
Yeah, this is a really cool match between these two as well, because they both live in Virginia, and so they've played at the Cave, where playoffs are concerned. They've known each other for a little bit over a year, and Dr. J actually stayed with Innovation at his house the time that he won the championship in Winter.
Oh, so he owes him one then.
Or the playoffs, rather.
He's got to bail right now. He's not going to turn up.
Once friends, now rivals. On the battlefield.
It's all friendly until you start talking about who's going to win this game of Hearthstone. Then things get a little bit sketchier. Jay, of course, wants to get his second title. He's had an incredible year of performance. Like you said, the 2017 America's Winter champion. Then, of course, went to the championship. Didn't do quite as well in Bahamas, but came back to sort of bring himself back up at Atlanta and really cement himself as one of the top players right now. And Innovation has a lot more to prove. So Dr. J kind of right at the top, but hasn't quite reached that peak. He's not on a professional team yet. He hasn't had a world championship appearance. So he still has quite a ways to go, but Innovation has to finally just put his foot forward. He needs to start to make those first steps before he can pick up any of those wins.
I think Dr. J actually just picked up, he has a new sponsor for this weekend. I think it was Space Station Gaming.
Does
Talked
he?
to him like a few minutes right before this. And he mentioned it. He's like, big point. You got to talk about this one. And now I've already forgotten the name. I think it was Space
Station Gaming.
We'll get on that.
I believe.
I'm probably just totally wrong now that I'm actually thinking about it. I'm really nervous.
That's all right, because if Space Station Gaming don't exist, get out there, organise up a set, just create it now, go and register the domain, and you've got a player in this tournament.
Yeah, but talking about Innovation, I mean, he's been picking up a lot of experience. He told me that he goes to the Cave every single weekend for their fireside gathering. So that little bit of tournament experience just here and there, all of that adds up in the grand scheme of things. You pick up piece by piece by piece. Suddenly, when you go to really compete on a big stage, you're not quite as nervous as much.
And going back to Dr. J's thing there with that second win, you say it cemented him. I mean, these days, that's how it's got to be. There's enough Hearthstone now that winning once is not enough. Winning that second tournament does cement it. And not many people win 2, quite a few people win 1. And it's a shame that it's taken as long as it has for him to get this sponsorship. I'm glad it's come through.
It's all about the consistent performances.
Oh, yeah.
It's not necessarily winning tournaments. It's the guys who are constantly making it to that top 10%. You're seeing their name time and time again to get that opportunity. More opportunities, you're usually doing better than the rest of the field.
Great to see him being recognized. A little bit unfortunate that we got 2 great friends going up against each other so early, but it's going to be a matchup to remember. So let's take a look at our picks and bans for Dr. J taking on Innovation. And here we can see them getting ready for their series. Innovation, he's kind of a quiet guy, but he's so excited to be here and always so excited to play Hearthstone. So it makes perfect sense that he's great friends with Dr. J, who also is just one of the most positive personalities in Hearthstone right now, I feel. And we've got rogue bans all around, so it's going to be Innovation with Paladin, Druid, Priest, and Dr. J with the Druid, the Priest, and the Warlock. Admirable, what are you making of these lineups?
Well, obviously the split difference between the Warlock and the Paladin. Curious to see exactly how that lines up with the matchups. But something that's been really curious to me is the constant Rogue bans. I don't think Rogue is the strongest deck that's out there right now, but I think building a lineup that wants to keep Rogue in mind, but also have strong matchups in a last hero standing format has been a challenge for a lot of players, and I think that's why we're seeing so many Rogue bans.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think I've said earlier, I think Rogue is actually not quite as good as Priest and Druid on an absolute level.
Absolutely not.
But in terms of taking it down, people seem to think actually that it's just too dangerous. It can do too many things, whereas the others do have their counters to some extent.
Yeah.
And they have similar style counters. If you want to counter Druid and Rogue, you have to bring two very different decks.
Exactly.
But counter Druid and Priest, you can kind of bring the same stuff and give them both a bit of a go.
And that's the thing for me, is that countering Rogue requires a lot of attention. Countering Priest or Druid maybe only requires a couple tech cards to really cinch the game at the right moment.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of a soft target opportunity to sort of keep those decks in mind, whereas with Rogue, the nuts potential of Rogue is just absolutely incredible. So guys, Innovation versus Dr. J, who is it going to be? Lorinda, the newcomer, or the now old hat, I suppose?
I think Dr. J is one of those players who isn't going to let off the pedal now he's winning. I think he's going to keep sort of winning, so I'm going to go with Dr. J on this one.
I have to go with Dr. J as well. I think that the Warlock is just a better choice than the Paladin right now.
Yeah.
Even though Paladin has been having an enormous performance across tournaments, I feel like it's got some weak spots, and I don't think this is a deck that Dr. J didn't account for. I think he's been paying attention to the fact that it's been performing so well.
Well, is the Paladin going to be too much for Dr. J to deal with, or is Dr. J going to potentially secure his third championship title? Round number 2, Innovation versus Dr. J, coming up right now.
That's right. It's going to be me and Lorinda for this one. First cast together.
Exciting
Oh,
time.
geez, I'm a bit nervous.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we should swipe left now.
It's a mono right swipe aggro. That's the way that it
Okay,
works.
that's the meta, is it? That's how we
well, they
got
nerfed it a lot too. You can't just
Sure.
do that anymore. But yeah, this matchup, I think the really big key for Innovation is to have his Paladin timed right in the lineup, and I think the same thing goes for the split deck on Dr. J's side. I think that timing the Warlock into the right spot is a big deal when it comes to last hero standing, because the deck that wins stays on, the deck that loses, it's out for the rest of the series.
It's interesting that Muzzy has also brought everybody, Muzzy, Chucky, Amnesia. We're seeing a lot of Warlocks suddenly sort of creeping out of the woodwork. Let's see how it gets on in this one, though. We're into the game. Innovation, we're going to get straight on with that Warlock with Dr. J.
Yeah, and this is really the matchup I think that Dr. J is partially looking for with Warlock. As you can see, this is a Zoo variant. This has started to become popular over the last couple of weeks. Players have figured out that Cairn is just a very strong option for getting bone mare value. And that's one of the biggest swings you can have versus late game decks, is having that giant minion placed on board, the immediate damage, and then the threat potential of both bodies.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about Cairn is in all the classes that were being played before the nerfs, like Paladin, there were just better options on 6 mana. Sunkeeper Tarim is just better than Cairn.
Yes,
right.
But now we're playing Warlocks, now we're playing Rogues. What have they got on 6 apart from maybe Auctioneer and Rogue? There isn't a 6 drop, and suddenly you go, I want a 4/5. I want 2 4/5.
Yeah.
I'm going to play Cairn.
Well, the thing about it is the early game for a lot of these decks has just changed. You look at the way that aggressive decks used to play, they tried to figure out the right times to push damage. Right now, it's very much about restricting your opponent's options and keeping them off power turns. What that means is, since you're trading the board so much, you get into these spots where Cairn becomes such a more valuable minion because it's very hard to kill.
On the right turn as well, going into turn 7, going into that Bone Mare turn where your opponent needs to clear up the board. They've got to get rid of 10 health worth of Cairn before they clear rid of anything else. Otherwise, they're getting a Bone Mare straight in the face.
Yeah, we saw Innovation coin out play the Wild Pyromancer super early here. And I'm curious how much this is really going to affect him. I think his hand's quite strong, but he's facing pressure immediately. And the Shadow Word Death will operate at some point, but I'm not sure really where he finds his big swing turn. It's looking to me like this is a play minions on the board and hope that you draw some strong cards for the endgame play.
Yeah, draw Anduin on 8 after getting the minions on board to control the board and then just win from there seems to be his plan right now. Yeah. Dr. J's also got an interesting situation because he will want to tap, but you don't want to tap too often against Priest. You give them those Mind Blast outs if you're not careful.
Yeah, this South Sea Captain pickup here could also be somewhat interesting with the Captain plus the second veteran. He's able to take out this Radiant Elemental and keep that pressure going, and Innovation has no answer to this.
Yeah, there's so much going on there. He's got
the coin too.
A lot of outs, but he hasn't got any answers right now.
So it looks like he wants to Doomguard into Doomguard and hope that he has that 33% chance to hang on to one of those.
Yeah, and if he doesn't, at least he has stuff to do the turn after. Because you're a Warlock, you can tap, you can get going. The 33% chance is just a game winner, should he get it. Playing with a new Warlock hero as well, just shows the size of the Fireside Gathering that took place in the hotel last night. Not a DreamHack related event, it was just organised a bit by Tespa. And a lot of players turned up for that.
Oh yeah, that was so cool to go to as well. Just meeting a lot of faces in person for the first time and just hang out in general and having fun at the event. The Fireside event was really cool as well. You had to kill your opponent 3 times in one game. To win that one game, it's kind of a weird thing to do.
It was like a tag team 3v3 3, right? You just tag in the next minion and tag in the next hero, and off you go.
Wow, look at this. And DrJ goes face the Doom Guard, trades off the little bodies. And that's really curious to me. If Innovation had Potion of Madness, he certainly would have used it last turn. And this attack with the Doom Guard straight to face opens him to Shadow Word Death. And now, granted, it's a Highlander deck. There's only one copy of all these cards, but I think he got a pretty strong read that Potion of Madness was not there on the previous turn.
Maybe he was scared. He wasn't scared of Kazaka's potions either, and Dragonfire wasn't for another turn. So yeah, you're right. That was an interesting looking play. But this is going to be a good play though. Flappy Bird and a tap straight into Ken, and he knew what was coming. It's fine.
Yeah, Innovation's got a lot to stick on board here though. He's dwindling on life total a bit, but Raza is such a strong body for handling this. Even draws the Circle of Healing that can couple with the Auchenai Soul Priest. And DrJ's got the Cairn, but oh, the silence coming out early. I like the silence here from Innovation, but this is a situation where he can get punished now.
Yeah, it makes sense, but he's going to be sweating after he sees this. He does have a whole lot of removal coming up, though. The whole...
The big one here is that the Cairn sticks around. It is very difficult for Innovation to super effectively answer this. And now with the Spirit Lash drawn, however...
He can trade into it if he wants, and then Auchenai Circle and shoot the second part.
Yeah, he could have just shot at the hero power as well.
It's not pleasant, but
I think the Innovation might turn the corner here with the extra minion in hand with the board clear here. Excuse me, it was easy for him to answer Cairn.
It was.
Why was I thinking this was so difficult?
I think you'd only just seen the circle. It was only just drawn last turn.
Wasn't counting for the hero power. That's what it was.
Because it's 0.
Yeah, in DrJ.
Zero hero power.
Wow, big draw. So now the question is tap or Voidwalker. And this is really a key turn that I would like to see DrJ think some more, because given the fact that he's so low on resources, what does the Voidwalker really add from a pressure standpoint versus the extra card? Say he digs deeper to Bone Mare.
One closer to Bone Mare, exactly. I guess going into Bone Mare, going into turn 8, maybe not the highest of priorities for him, because Anduin just clears the whole lot.
Voidwalker though, I mean, you can couple those together, you keep the Dreadlord around, quick play, and oh, look at that!
Doesn't matter. Gets it anyway.
Now, having the Voidwalker out does mean it gets to attack this turn as well. So there is a lot of benefit there. And notice that DrJ's pushing face in this spot. As soon as your opponent does not answer a priority minion, that is a great time to start pushing damage. It usually means they can't take care of it.
And really cannot take care of it. Another Dirty Rat. Do you think a lot of people are expecting Quest Mage, or is there another reason for so many Dirty Rats being here, do you feel?
It definitely affects a lot of decks like Quest Mage. But it can just be a strong card in general. If your opponent's holding Doomsayers against aggressive decks that start to putter out, it's a great defensive tool for cheap. It serves a lot of purposes. It's just a strong utility card right now, I think.
Innovation, gonna have to live up to his name. He's gone from trying to get control of the game just to trying to survive one more turn just in case at this point.
Yeah, we're seeing the dark side of Priest right now when you don't draw your Shadow Reaper Anduin, when you don't hit all your card draw.
That does happen sometimes, apparently.
Pint-sized trade, and that's a very low life total. He is in a lot of danger right now.
Yeah, and also, not only is he in a lot of danger, but no immediate win condition springs to mind. Because, obviously, you know, he's done no damage.
Who wins DrJ the game here? Oh my
just
God.
tap wins in the game. He gets 2 Warlock cards, that's fine. There's another Doom Guard, there's Soulfires, there's loads of stuff in that deck. And he gets 2 goes at it.
Well, that's not it. That's a really bad one.
He actually hovered over the card in the deck there to count his outs.
Those are 2 of the worst cards left in DrJ's deck, and sort of talking about that ugly side, this is that for Warlock.
It is, but there's a long way still to go with Innovation. Not only has he got to stabilize, but he's got to stabilize with 1 card in hand. That's a big deal. He doesn't get to shoot things repeatedly with Anduin with only 1 card. And with DrJ drawing 2 cards a turn, he should still be okay here. But like you say, that was just an awful couple of pickups.
Weird turn here as well. How do you push the combat in this spot? Bone Mare, if you make that attack, you're giving it up to the Despicable Dreadlord.
Yeah, it's horrific. He has to do it, but it's like a horrific situation to find yourself in. Yeah, he's going to have to trade giant amounts of damage in.
I'm curious about that. He could have pushed 4 more damage, but he's valuing the body. And Dragonfire Potion, a huge draw for Innovation. Likely the best card left in his deck at this point.
Yeah, resets everything, gets himself to 14, still got plenty to do. Maybe now Anduin's good enough. Keleseth's big, just because we are still in the can I populate the board, can I make it scary phase, even though it is turn 11 or 12, which Keleseth's usually bad at.
And notice DrJ tapped here first. He's thinking, what cards can I draw that I can play for my remaining mana total here rather than use the Keleseth and then draw. In this instance, he got the option for Bone Mare, so he did lose one stat in that spot, but repetitive damage is how he's going to win this one, I think, not necessarily just burst.
So Innovation can take care of the Keleseth, but it's still just going 1 card for 1, and this is no good in the long run for him. 1 card for 1 is not going to win him this game.
He's making up ground, though.
He is definitely getting into it.
By 2. You know, I'm thinking of all the strong draws left in the Innovations deck, almost any card draw. Felon would be great at this point, but now this is about to get ugly, and Dr. J has to think here. Do I actually want this vicious fledgling to be bigger?
You don't. You only lose to Anduin here is what he's thinking. He's just going to plop this down, put down the Crystal Reaver for pressure, and then next turn he's going to have a bone-mared fledgling that almost certainly it just dies to almost nothing in the deck apart from maybe Kazakus into potion. He's seen the circle.
Oh, that is ugly. 14 damage available for Dr. J. If he gets Wind Fury off of this fledgling attack, that's game.
Soulfire is game.
Draw Soulfire, that's game.
Tap Soulfire is game.
And that's, you saw that tap earlier, he was thinking about Lich King exactly.
Yeah. Must have been the exact card, like you say, he was looking for. He wouldn't have been able to play it should he tap after the Keleseth.
Whoa. So he wants to just further protect himself. Is that still lethal? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It is.
Yeah, he just wants to make sure that he has to take stealth, then he gets the attack in first.
Well, the other thing, too, is that, say he has to take something that buffs the power or just a useless option, it's still lethal either way, and he can still protect himself from the Shadow Reaper Anduin in that spot. Great sequencing from Dr. J.
Takes a 1-0 lead that looked pretty likely from about turn 6 onwards, but it got a bit sweaty there. You can see he's like...
It's looking a little stressed.
Yeah.
It's round 2, bud. There's a lot more to go.
I like you when Dr. J's like this, though. When Dr. J's overconfident is when I feel he doesn't play his best. I like it when he's a bit worried, when he's a bit nervous, when he's a bit on edge.
That serious attitude goes a long way. Players focus in all sorts of ways, too. I think about Coco Sasa from the Summer Champs that just happened. During the interview process, he said, I like to talk to my opponent. As long as my opponent can't hear me, it hypes me up to sitting there and be like, oh, you don't have Brawl, do you? Oh, you're in trouble.
Make them your enemy.
Sort of, that was his style.
Hate the player, and then you want to beat them more.
And it said it helped him focus during the game, but that guy's just all about having fun. Like he said his favorite thing in Hearthstone is when the minion crashes in the face, that 8 damage sound.
I was really casting Turner in a qualifying match for a fairly big event, or for a big event, and he was walking around in circles on his webcam during this qualifying stage. He couldn't sit down. He just wanted to burn the nervous energy and just try and focus that way. Everyone does their own weird thing.
Patch is drawn for Dr. J. Already a -1 for him, but this matchup can get a bit dicey as well. Innovation queuing up Jay Druid in this spot. Zoo doesn't quite pack the early potential that it used to. It used to be a deck that was purely dedicated to the early game, and its top end was quite literally Doom Guards and Soulfires. In this matchup, Dr. J's got a lot bigger stuff, but that means that his pressure is quite limited throughout many stages of the game.
Yeah, I feel that we need a new name for Zoo, because this isn't very Zoo-like at all. You don't really get that early board control, those early buffs. It's more of a curvy Warlock deck of some sort.
Yeah, curvy Warlock deck.
Except it needs to be named by somebody who's a little bit more eloquent.
No, that's perfect.
We go with curvy Warlock.
Nailed it, curvy Warlock deck.
Innovation having that power start, and the thing with Druid is this start doesn't look like it goes anywhere, but when you've drawn 4 or 5 more cards, it goes everywhere.
Blood Reaver Gul'dan early for Dr. J here, and the weak turns are happening.
When you get this Blood Reaver early in your hand like this, does it affect your planning? Do you play a little bit more defensive, knowing that if you get to turn 10 you have that option, or do you just not bother? I
think it just depends on what Innovation's going to be doing if I'm Dr. J. If I have an opportunity to simply recklessly push damage and then find that spot to Blood Reaver Gul'dan and try to squeeze those few extra points of damage, I assume usually the function of that card in this deck. I don't think that this deck is playing defense super well. I think it needs to be ahead to really take advantage.
So he's had 2 effectively dead cards, if you count Patches, and Blood Reaver Gul'dan in his opener.
Yeah.
He's using the Patches to some effect, but he's not making it through to the later stages.
It's gotten 2 damage so far, so we'll see where that goes, but Innovation just going to keep on ramping. With Aya in hand, with Spellbreaker, with Ultimate Infestation, why not?
Yeah, you're in no hurry to stop
Nice draw.
Yeah.
Dr. J wants to use out the minions here.
And that Patches actually got work done. It allowed a trade up and it did 2 damage to face. That's not too bad for bad Patches.
I'm curious if damage was really an option there for Dr. J. I don't have a ton of experience in this matchup in particular, so I'm wondering if, because the deck is quite as heavy as it is, that you don't necessarily need that constant pressure throughout.
I have a feeling that by the end of this weekend, we will all know a lot more about Zoo from these early couple of rounds. We are seeing a lot of Zoo. We're going to know a lot about how to play it over the next 2 days.
Like the Silence here as well. I like the Dreadlord as well, though. You know, 2 good options. What more can you really ask for?
This is a tough decision. I mean, you can just use the Dreadlord to advantage here. That's what he's going to do. Just how much damage he's going to face. Like you say, he's taking time to trade quite a lot. A lot more damage could have gone faced,
yeah,
but...
That 2 makes a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
Get the 5/3 body off board. But Innovation finds more ramp, so more Jades to be summoned this turn. And then because that'll ramp him up to 8 mana, he can coin the Infestation on the following turn when he goes into a 9-mana turn.
And as it stands, Jay's not going to be able to really boost his board out of Infestation range. If Infestation kills your last minion or your last but 1 minion, it's done its job, usually, safely.
Green men are stacking up now.
So many green men.
And I think this is the key turn.
And he's not got enough stuff to do.
And that's an indicator of that.
Yeah, tapping when you have a handful of cards is bad news, especially going into coin Infestation. This is going to be the turn that swings the game around. That Bone Mare is going to have no targets, and it's just going to be a sad state for Dr.
I think
J.
the Dreadlord to 5/6, though, does occupy an additional attack here. So Innovation doesn't have really any counter pressure rolling. He's going to have to stabilize from this point. And I think that's where things can get really difficult. It looks like
Mark
to me.
of the Lotus could be good news.
I'm curious if you even play the Ultimate Infestation this turn because of that. I mean, now he's got Wrath Fandral.
Wrath, Mark. I think that looks like a really good turn. You can buff a lot of minions up and draw some cards and save your Infestation for an empty hand.
You lose quite a bit of your board, but again, the major power spike is Bone Mare from Dr. J. And that's what I would focus on here if I'm Innovation. How do I fight best against Bone Mare? And he's going to go for the Ultimate Infestation, and that means Dr. J is going to have a Bone Mare turn.
He is. I guess all that stuff we just said is usable next turn, but there'll be fewer minions. Or maybe not.
It's just the damage that piles on. You know, Dr. J, it looks like he's going to have to draw Soulfires to win here, extra damage. There's 1 Soulfire, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's got 13 damage exactly this turn. So Innovation has to heal up for 1 in this spot.
So just too many things coming in right now by the look of it. What can he do that adds up to 10 that does
Swipe Wrath
so
Hero
much at
Power,
once?
I think leaves him alive at 1.
Is being 1 really alive, though?
Not when you lose both your minions.
Not when you has Gul'dan in hand. I mean, don't get me wrong, staying alive is better than not staying alive, so you take your chance, but...
Oh, this is really clever, actually, to use the Spellbreaker here instead. Just simply trade off the board damage here, keep that 3/2 rolling, hope that 4 life is good enough.
Yeah, that's not immediately obvious when you're discussing it. He's going to get this clear here as well.
He's going for the tempo value here. He wants to keep his zombie token online.
And I'm fine with this. It's going to lose him the game, and I'm fine with it. This means that if you don't have it now, you're going to have it really soon. I'm going to kill you next turn or the turn after.
Dr. J. I don't know about that one. I think Innovation may have given up a little bit too early. Think about how difficult it is for Dr. J to push that 5th damage. It's got to be Doomguard at that point. But in this instance, he gave him the Soulfire.
I want to look at the hand sizes here as well. Did you need to Infestation that turn when you could have gone pretty wide and set up the Infestation for 1 turn later?
And that was the thing. Not paying attention to Bone Mare netted DrJikininki another 9 damage on top of that. I think that was the critical turn to look at. Infestation, I do not think was superior to his other options. Simply expend your resources when your opponent's got the 1 last remaining one, then hit him with the ult.
Because the Infestation is 5 card draw is the main part. If you're dying with 7 cards in hand, you didn't need 5 more.
Right. 100 mana in hand doesn't do you any good if you can't actually play it.
So, interesting that one. It's hard to sometimes recreate it backwards when you're watching it and then you're casting the next turns as well, but it feels like that was a potential turning point. But Dr. J's got 2 wins on the trot with this Warlock deck.
Paladin's
good for the whole day.
And Paladin does not thrive very well versus Warlock, especially not any sort of aggressive Warlock. He's free to just simply draw cards the entire game, trade down 1 for 1, and end up with the last resource. If Innovation cannot pressure Dr. J in this matchup, you are looking at a decisive victory coming up for Dr. J. But when you're talking about pressure, this is usually the kind of opening hand that you're looking for in Innovation's spot. Lots of cheap early Murlocs.
Lots of Murlocs and the Mega Sword to back them up if they stick, which they should, because like you've already explained, Zoo isn't quite as aggressive early as it used to be. However, Dr. J also has one of the better hands you can have.
Flame Imp is definitely the one hand that does it. And the overlay is incorrect right now. We'll get that fixed as soon as possible. It is a 2-0 lead for Dr. J right now.
Looking at a Warlock sweep. I didn't think we'd say that going into today, but having seen it in action, I think we might be saying it a lot.
Still a pretty strong turn here, but losing the Flame Imp outright hurts a bit.
It's really weird, right? You're trading a 1-drop for a 1-drop, which should feel fine, and it hurts.
It just doesn't feel fine. I don't want to trade Flame Imp.
But it should be fine.
It should be.
I know it's not.
It's not. It's definitely not.
It's killing a Murloc. It feels so like he should survive.
Yeah. And now this is the benefit for Innovation's sequencing here. He purposefully focused the buff onto the Violent Inquisitor to get the 2-4 here.
It's going to need another buff, though, or things are going to start to get out of hand.
Rallying Blade.
There's quite a few outs.
Oof.
Maybe there's not that many outs, actually. Yeah,
Things
Rallying Blade
just
might be
got
about
rough.
it. Miss your turn is always bad. This is almost miss your turn.
Fledgling hitting the board and sticking can be a big problem for Innovation. And the draw off the Crystal Weaver. Big body keeps the Malchezaar's Imp out of range of threat to just the 1-1.
Divine Shield seems decent, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just lives to fight or flap or whatever it does for one more day.
Yep, and this is a really smart trade here for Dr. J. I was just about to touch on this. If he trades into the 2-2, the Violent Inquisitor has a direct attack into the Malchezaar's Imp. This way, he occupies both Murloc attacks if he wants to get that job done.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. It's an extra value trade, and it comes up quite a lot. It's not just a very specific example. People miss that one a lot in Hearthstone, and you can get an extra kill.
I think Innovation is fairly committed to clearing as much as possible. Now, with his hand in the Sunkeeper Terra, maybe he's considering the Death Rattle option off of this Megasaur, but I think that pure attack, try to get rid of this board while you can, has some merit, but when you're facing down a Divine Shielded Fledgling,
yeah,
it is not comfortable, to say the least.
That's a very good way of putting it. My mind is usually all over the place when I see this. It's just got to die. It's one of the very few cards that has to die, and he's actually going to let it live to get rid of the other stuff.
Well, he gets the value on it, and the other thing, too, is this shuts off a power Doomguard turn. So the Malchezaar's Imp not being there means he doesn't get that super value, but Dr. J makes great use of that Divine Shield, and suddenly it's looking like Tarim is approaching the last hope scenario. That's a lot of weight this little Hydrologist is going to have to pull.
Yeah, these Death Lords act like mini versions of Kellerset in their own right, where they give all your minions that extra +1/+1, but just for one turn. They let you do all these naughty trades, and it's just such a good card. And then next turn, Dr. J is going to run a riot here.
Oh my. Yeah, I don't think you ever go for this here.
Yeah, you just have to forget it exists.
Yep. Get your extra 1-2. Get your Doomguard on board, and this is probably still restricting the board.
Yeah, I mean, this is what traditional Zoo just does for a living. It just kills everything, stops your opponent from doing anything, and it's going to work out absolutely fine here.
Wind Fury found. That health is looking like it will be somewhat irrelevant for Innovation here. This is play the Tarim and hope. And when your opponent gets to trade over and leave this Fledgling up, the hope is quickly dwindling.
Yeah, 2 cards a turn. Again, the downside of not having any direct damage or anything in your deck means the Warlock is just free to draw card after card.
And this is part of the other problem with Innovation, too. I mean, he had a great early start, but he never wrangled control of the board. This deck thrives off that board position.
Yeah, and now you can see with the problem now, the 3 cards in his hand need anything to be on board. First one is such a big deal. It means that you save a whole minion's worth of stuff. And you get the attack in order.
Yeah.
You just have to chill.
And what a minion to save, too. Dreadlord. Mega Wind Fury.
That should be a thing. I mean, it is a thing, but that should be a thing you can actually get if you already got it once.
And I think Innovation's done here.
Dr. J with a very quick 3-0. And Innovation, if he's going to look through this, I think it's that second game, the one against the Druid. And in Last Hero Standing, the punishes are bigger because you're playing your better deck by choice. If you lose with that deck because you make a mistake, potentially, then you get to play the person who wins, who shouldn't have done, gets to play an easy match.
That's right, handshake amongst friends there. But my gosh, Last Hero Standing is a cruel mistress. You'll see a lot of 5-game sets, but you'll see a lot of 3-game sets as well. And that's sort of the nature of it. If you win an unfavorable matchup in the second game, it's easy to roll away with the series. But a lot of times you see the counter deck queued up and it goes back and forth until game number 5. The first game is extremely pivotal in Last Hero Standing. And Dr. J getting the right matchup in the first one and then taking the unfavorable versus Druid, or what I would consider slightly unfavorable.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a weird format at the moment, and I like this at the moment. There's a lot of sort of 55-45s. It's not Control Warrior versus Freeze Mage Last Hero Standing, where you just like, you saved it, you queued up the counter. When we talk about counters nowadays, they are much more soft counters than they used to be.
I would tend to agree with that as well.
So the 3-0 thing, I agree with you. It's usually a thing, but it's going to be slightly less impactful this time around, I think.
Yeah, it's just the nature of a lot of the way the decks work out, where, again, you do have hard counters. Like, there are matchups that demolish Priest,
yeah,
even if they get like those nutso insane draws where they have the Raza, they have the Kazakus, they have the Enduin, the pressure just keeps rolling the entire time.
And we will see people bringing those. We've already seen Big Priest. We haven't seen a Quest Mage, but we will. It'll be there. And those sort of things, we are going to see people try that in this lineup. And the problem those people are going to have is predicting this meta.
I think so as well. There's a lot more aggression this time around in the tournament, and that seems to be the case with every meta that evolves. You know, the aggro decks have the weird initiative of deciding what tools they need to bring to get the job done. It's typically the opposite. What should the control decks bring? But right now, the control decks are just so powerful that the aggressive decks have the onus of that. And
it was just really weird.
Yeah. I want to remind everyone, we're not talking just for the sake of it. We are experiencing some slight technical issue here, so apologize for that, and we'll get the next match underway as quickly as possible. But man, what about this Warlock deck?
Yeah,
holy moly.
I mean, I've seen the meta, I know what the meta is, but the amount of it is the incredible thing. We are going to have Cat Destroy versus Tars. Talking of craziness,